OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Spring cleaning is here. Get your carpets clean for just $35 a room, or stairs at $35 too. And right now, take an extra $50 off air duct cleaning. Book now at ZeroResAtlanta.com. Zero Res, it's the right way to clean.
President Trump is the leader of our party, and his endorsement in this is the most powerful force in politics.
Might be the understatement of the century. That is Attorney General Ken Paxton after he walloped sitting Senator John Cornyn. Continue our team coverage of those election results in Tejas. Joining us live in studios. He does every Wednesday at this time. Political analyst Stephen Lawson. I thought Paxton would win. I didn't see a 27-point victory, though. Holy smokes.
Yeehaw. Yeah, everything is bigger in Texas, including the Trump-endorsed blowouts. I think John Cornyn found out the hard way last night, 64-36. And keep in mind, Mark, this was a race in March during the primary that John Cornyn was the first place winner in.
That's what I said to Deborah at the start of the show. I'm like, he won the primary. Like, he had more votes in the primary and then the runoff. And I know, turned out for runoff, it was on a Monday for some unknown reason. It was Memorial Day, blah, blah. But wow. Like, yes, Thomas Massey, that his loss showed President Trump's might. But to me, that pales in comparison to knocking out a sitting, somewhat popular senator in Texas. Like, that is a monster shot.
It is huge. It is, obviously it's sending, earthquakes through the Texas GOP political establishment right now, because I think this is just another clear indicator that Donald Trump's endorsement is the gold standard, and it is the biggest thing that you can get in Republican politics right now. Mark, you mentioned those Indiana state Senate seats. Trump won. You mentioned Louisiana, Bill Cassidy taken down as somebody who Julia Letlow, who got the Trump endorsement. Thomas Massey in Kentucky, and now you have this. I think the big takeaway for people in Georgia is, what does this mean in a few weeks?
Hold on a second.
In our runoffs.
David Perdue's calling in. Wants to know why all of a sudden is that Trump endorsement so powerful?
But it's a stunning shift, because what we saw in 2022, to your point, especially here in Georgia, is that those endorsements from Donald Trump did not work out.
No.
Right? And David Perdue you want to talk about a shellacking, lost by 52 points to Brian Kemp.
Governor Kemp stomped him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was only one Trump-endorsed candidate in 2022 that won in Georgia. His name was Burt Jones, and he happens to be on the ballot in a couple weeks again. So it's going to be really interesting to see, not only for his sake, but for all of these other races in Georgia. Is there been a marked shift and a major increase in the importance of Donald Trump's endorsement? All signs are pointing to yes right now.
You have to be. And that's despite, President Trump's lowest approval rating in either two terms. I can't make heads or tails of it, but the evidence is there. Massey and Cornyn, I mean, like, that's the gold standard. I would imagine if you are Burt Jones, you're like, yes, that's a good sign for my race.
It is, and especially for someone in Burt Jones who came in first place in that primary race just a couple weeks ago, and kind of surprised some skeptics, right? A lot of the polling had shown that he was trailing Rick Jackson. Not only does he come in first place, but he won. I think he was in first place by about 5 or 6 points. And so now I think the momentum is definitely on Burt Jones' side, especially after these results in Texas. I think what's critical that you mentioned, Mark, in Texas, there was lower turnout in runoffs. We expect that to be the case in a couple weeks here in Georgia. But by how much? There's obviously Republicans up and down the aisle have a number of runoff races. There's going to be a lot of races driving turnout. And if it's anywhere close to what it was in May, I think that's going to be an early sign and an early boost for some of the Trump-aligned candidates.
Political analyst Stephen Lawson joining us live in studio on the Mark Arum Show. Why, Stephen, were Democrats rooting for Paxton to win in Texas?
Yeah, I mean, look, I clearly he has some baggage. I think that John Cornyn it really centered a lot of his campaign around some of the misdeeds and ethical question marks that surrounded the Ken Paxton campaign. His argument was, look, if you elect Ken Paxton, not only are you going to have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to defeat the Democrat James Tallarico, but it's also going to potentially have downward pressure on other Republicans in the state. I don't think we've got anything similar to a Ken Paxton here in Georgia, but I do think that there are, obviously, as you alluded to, Mark, the president's favorability is not great right now, and Georgia's not Texas. We are much more of a battleground state. So I think the question is, can those MAGA Trump-aligned candidates, if they do emerge in a primary, how well do they pivot to a general election? I think for their general election viability, that's going to be really important.
There was a ton of money spent in Texas during the primary, and everyone, you mentioned the concern, like Republicans are going to have to spend more in Texas than they wanted to. Any indication where more money is going to be spent during the general election, whether it's Texas or Georgia? Because I know a lot of money is going to be pouring into Georgia as well.
Yeah, can both be an answer?
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be both. Look, I'm of the opinion that I still think Texas is certainly more red than Georgia is. I don't know. There's some question marks about James Tallarico. He is, been on record saying some pretty controversial things, particularly for a state like Texas. So I think there's going to be some question marks there. So I don't know that there's going to be a huge, disparity between the amount that's spent in Texas and, say, Georgia. There's going to be a lot of money spent in Georgia, regardless of if the candidate is Derek Dooley or Mike Collins. John Ossoff is very vulnerable, but at the same time, he's going to be well-resourced. And then you've got the governor's race as well. So there's going to be plenty of money spent in Georgia.
I was sitting at Hartsfield-Jackson on Friday. Our flight to Connecticut was delayed for a couple hours, and I saw some breaking political news, and I texted you. And I said, I'm sorry, you're about to lose your job as the social media manager for the Collins campaign. That talk about a Friday evening surprise. Like, what the heck happened there?
Yeah, just to clarify, that was a joke.
Yeah. Steve was not in charge of the social media.
And to your point, Mark, someone from the Collins campaign, most believe that it was his chief strategist, sent out an extremely vile and offensive tweet late Friday. He was subsequently fired from the Collins campaign. But, certainly there's still fallout there. It'll be interesting to see how Mike Collins continues to deal with that, in the days ahead. Obviously, the Derek Dooley campaign is making a big deal about that. But it'll be interesting to see, how that plays in. And then ultimately, I still think the big question in that race is, what does Donald Trump do? Does Donald Trump endorse Mike Collins? Does he stay out of it? Does he surprise everybody and endorse Derek Dooley?
Before a couple of weeks ago, I thought he would stay out of it. But it's like when you have that power, it's like if you had a lightsaber. Yeah. You're not just going to let it hang on your belt. You want to take that lightsaber out and show it off. Like, I think he's going to endorse now. He's like, listen, I'm on a roll. I'm going to go ahead and throw an endorsement in this race and continue to ride the hot streak. So I think that that is something that Collins camp can look for. I would imagine if there were to be an endorsement in that race, it would be for Collins.
Yeah, most likely. And it's very actually similar to what happened in Texas. I mean, the president kind of held that endorsement back, to your point, like a lightsaber, right? He knew he had that power, but he didn't wield it until when, Mark? Right before early voting. Could that happen again in Georgia? Could he come in for Mike Collins at the last minute? Mike Collins, again, was the first place vote getter, appears to be in a good position. But, ultimately, we're just living in Donald Trump's world.
And we're in a truncated time frame here when early voting and to the end of the primary. The last thing you want as a campaign is an unforced error, and that's what that Twitter thing that was. Yeah. That wasn't like, oh, we got some Oppo research and we're going to get a bombshell like, oh, Derek Dooley did this or Colin. This is a totally unforced error.
Totally unforced error. Could not have happened at a worse time for Mike Collins' campaign. And like I mentioned, I mean, he swiftly fired this staffer. That was clearly the right call. But it'll be interesting to see as this develops. Does that continue to be a lingering thing for the Collins campaign, or is he able to kind of pivot and kind of get that Trump endorsement?
Quick on the governor's race, saw this new Rick Jackson ad, loved it, and I said this during things got really bad and brutal during the primary between Jackson and
Burt Jones.
Burt Jones. The gloves came off, and I said, I want Rick Jackson is such a good story. I want ads about his story, and now it's like a 2-minute ad. I was like, where was this? Like, this is how you win moderates. This is how you win independents. Is that a sign of things to come? Are we going to see a more calmed down Republican governor's race now heading up to the runoff?
Probably not, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. But I do think that this was a really good ad from the Rick Jackson campaign. Again, talking about his background from foster care to billionaire, talking about the positive things that he wants to see. I've said before, Mark, we've talked about this a lot. I think the barrage, the hundreds of millions of dollars in negative ads have turned people off in this primary. I think that they've tuned out, they've turned off, and I think it especially hurt Rick Jackson in that primary campaign. I think the winner of this campaign is the person that's going to do the fundamentals the best, that gets out the vote, that identifies those runoff primary voters, but also has a positive message that is going to pull people back out to pull the lever for him.
I think if you have no story to tell, fine, go negative, bash the other candidate. But if you've got a great story to tell, just tell that story.
Yeah.
Like that, no one else in America probably has that Rick Jackson story. Just tell that story. That's it. You've got a story to tell. We want to hear it. The voters want to hear it. There's no reason to lob bombs at your opponent.
Totally agree. And the flip side for Burt Jones, I thought Burt Jones did a good job towards the end of the primary campaign of doing that, of going positive, talking about his record of results. And I think that's probably why he may have edged out Rick Jackson there in the primary. I think for him to be successful, I think he should continue that positive vision for what he offers the state as well.
A positive vision, and be texting the president, when you coming down, when you coming down, when you coming down.
That's right.
Come on down, buddy. Come on down. Like, let's go golf at East Lake. Let's go golf at Augusta. Come on. And because we saw in Texas, that endorsement is a powerful, powerful thing. Great stuff as always. Dentons.com for all things Stephen Lawson. Hey.